Hello, everyone. Welcome to this session on AutoCAD. In this particular session, we'll be looking at annotation with dimension. So we're going to be looking at dimension annotation. How do we dimension objects in AutoCAD? So let's get started. Okay, welcome once again to this session. In this session, we'll be looking at annotation using dimension. Now, in the previous session, we have looked at text annotation. Now we are looking at dimension annotation. How do we add dimension to our drawings in AutoCAD? Just very simple. Okay, let me use the initial drawing. Okay, so I'll be using this drawing as our exercise. Okay. All right, so I'll be creating some objects which I'll be using for this exercise. So I draw a rectangle, I draw a circle. We're going to dimension these objects. We're going to be dimensioning this object. So I'm drawing some shapes which we'll be using for this exercise. Now, how do we dimension in AutoCAD? Now, to dimension in AutoCAD, to create your dimension, um, go to your annotation panel, go to your annotation panel. Then similarly to what we said on that text, there are two things we need to do. We need to first create our settings. Then the other aspect is applying dimension to our object. So the very first aspect I'm going to be focusing on is how to create the setting, how to create the dimension setting. Then next, we'll be looking at how to now apply the dimension. Now to create the dimension setting, go to this arrow drop down. Then at the second button in this region called dimension style. So click on dimension style. Now the dimension style is going to it's going to pop up a box, a dialog box. On the dialog box, by default, you have standard, which will give you your standard dimension. Okay. All right. So now if I'm going to be using a standard dimension by default, let's see. I can use my standard dimension by default. Now you can see that this default dimension is not appropriate for this drawing. It looks so small. The arrows are barely showing. The text is barely showing. So the default dimension is not appropriate for this drawing. So I'm going to be creating my own dimension. So I go to dimension style, click on the button. So I'm not going to be using this standard dimension. So instead of that, I'll create my own dimension setting. You click on new. Now you can give your new setting a name. Let me call it DIM1, dimension 1, DIM1. Give it any name you want, a descriptive name. Continue. Now it opens a different dialog box. In this dialog box, we'll be customizing our dimension based on our need. Now we have different tabs at the top here, different tab. We have line tab, symbols and arrow tab, text tab, fit tab, primary units tab. So you can, we're going to be customizing using this tab. Now for line tab, on this line tab, you'll be customizing the color of the line you want. I want my line to have a red. You can see the preview here. So you're going to customize this. Now, also here, you have extension line color. So actually you have two colors. Now we have dimension line color, extension line color. Now, what's the difference between dimension line color and extension line color? Now, let's take a look at the preview. Now, the preview, I'll be able to set my dimension line to red, my extension line to green. Now, this brown is the actual object that is drawn. So my extension line extends from the object and my dimension line has the arrow. So ideally, this dimension line and extension line should have the same color. So I'm going to be changing this from green to red. Now you can see now dimension line and extension line are having the same color. Now this is the objects drawn. So extension line and dimension line should have the same color. Now, so next on the tab, symbol and arrow. Next on the tab, I'll go to symbol and arrow. So with this, I'm able to use any type of arrowhead I want. Any type of arrowhead I want. So there are several options here that you might want to try out. There are several options, type of arrowhead that you want. So the most important is this closed field. So I'm going to be using this closed field. Then also a very important setting you need to do is the arrow size setting. You want to determine how big or how small this arrowhead will be. So by default, I have 0.18. So depending on the size of the object you are doing, you might need to adjust it to just a size that might be appropriate. If you are doing a building drawing, buildings are large dimension, you might want to use 250, 300, 200, between 200 to 300 or 350, depending on the size of the building, depending on what you want. But if you are doing a small dimension drawing, 1, 2, depends. So now, so the choice of what you are going to be using for your arrow size depends on the actual size of your drawing. So for my little sketch, I'm going to be using arrow size 3. All right, so I'll go to the next tab, text, text. Now, text color, let me change my text color to green. Then now text height 0.18. Now you can see my preview is not looking proportional. The reason is because my arrowhead has been changed to 3 while my text height still remains at 0.18. So that's why we're having this. So I'm going to be changing this to 3 also, or 4, whichever one. Enter. Okay, so once I'm able to do that, you can see there's now proportion between the text and the arrow size. So that's why it's showing better now. Okay, so always remember to change your text height. Text height. Now, another changes I'll be making in my setting is text alignment. Now, I'm going to be choosing align with dimension line. This is a very preferred option. Align with dimension line. Okay, all right. So I'm going to be skipping fit settings. I'll leave it as a default. I'll go to primary units. So with my primary unit, I can determine how many decimal places I want my text to be, my dimension text to be. How many decimal places? If I want whole number, okay, so you can here decide how many decimal places you want your text or dimension text to be. So let me just choose whole number, so no decimal place. Then I'll leave these last two at their default. So once you're able to do these settings, then go ahead, click OK. Then once you've clicked OK, so I'm going to then now you can see now we have two different settings, the default setting and the new setting that we have just created. So the last thing I'm going to be doing here is I'm going to select my new setting and set it as the current setting. Set it current. Then now I can close my dialog box. So if you have been able to do this, correctly, then you have successfully done your dimension setting. So the next thing you need to do now is now to apply the setting. All right, to apply the setting, most very important notice is make sure the object snap is on. Before you can apply your dimension, be sure that object snap is on your drawing aid. Object snap helps you to locate points accurately. So you need to be able to locate your endpoint accurately before you can apply your dimension. So be sure that this button is on. Then once that is on, then now I will come to this I'll come to my annotation panel. Then you want to apply your dimension. You can see we have different options here. We have linear, we have align, we have angular, arc, radius, diameter, and so on. So the choice of what you use depend on the object that you want to apply. So for vertical and horizontal, I'll be using linear. So just click on the endpoint, then decide on where you want the dimension to be located. All right, so linear. So this is linear dimension. For a circle, I will either use a radius or a diameter setting. So that's for a circle. Okay, so radius, diameter. All right, so okay. For my triangle, you'll be using align. So the difference between linear and align is that align is for angular lines. Angular lines, align. Align is for angular lines, while linear is for vertical and horizontal lines. So just click on the endpoints. Okay, so I'll be using linear here. Okay, so all right. So if I decide to use linear for this slant line, what am I going to have? Okay, let me try that. So for this particular line, I'm going to be using both linear and align. So for linear, you see what I have? No, linear. Then if I use align for it, I'm going to be having a different value. Okay, yeah, okay, it's giving me the same because it's probably approximating. Let me make it more obvious by drawing something like this. Okay, all right, so I'm going to be applying both linear and align. for this line. So for linear, okay, I can either go this way or I go this way. Then for align. So you can see that we have different values. 64 for linear, 110 for align. So it all depends on how you want to dimension the line. Do you want it to be dimensioned horizontal or vertically? Use linear. You want it to be dimensioned parallel to the object. For lines, use align. All right, so align. Okay. All right, so that's how. So you can try up some other methods of dimension to dimension your drawing. So when you're able to do this, then you'll be able to dimension your drawing accurately. Okay. All right. Okay, before we end this class, I would like to teach you how to use. There's another option for dimensioning called dimension continue. So I'll be creating a drawing. Then we're going to be using dimension continue to dimension the drawing. All right. Okay. All right. Drawing. Okay, now I've created this drawing. So I want to dimension the whole length of this object. Now and I want to use another option. The option is not here. It's not here. It's not listed here. It's called dimension continue. So how do we use dimension continue? To use your dimension continue, you first use linear in this case. Okay, all right, okay. Now I can see that this dimension setting is not appropriate for this size of drawing that I've done because you can see it's bigger than the initial ones I have here. So I'm going to create a new setting. I'm going to create a new dimension setting quickly. New, give it a new name, DIM2. Okay, I'm going to change the setting a little bit from the initial one. Let me use blue. I'll come to symbol and arrow. I'll use the same arrowhead. Now for the arrow size, I'm going to be using, let me use 8 because the drawing is bigger than the initial one. 8. Then I'll go to text. I want my text to be red. I want the text height to be 8 also. Then aligned. Primary units. Okay, let me make it 1 decimal places. Okay, so this time DIM2, I'm going to set it current. By setting it current, it means that's what I want to apply. Set current close. Now, yes, now I want to apply my new setting. So linear. Okay, all right. Okay, it's fine. The height is proportional to the drawing. Then you can see that the setting is different from what I have here because I created a different setting based on my object size. Now, I want to continue dimensioning this. So I'm going to be using dimension continue. So before you can use dimension continue, you must have first used linear dimension. So before you can use dimension continue, I'll go to my command line and type DIM continue. DIM continue. So once you have DIM continue, you can see that option already popping up. DIM continue. So all you need to do is just pick the endpoint, then it's going to dimension on the same level. So now you can see that I've been able to dimension the whole of these sections on the same level accurately using DIM continue to continue from where my DIM linear ends. So let me dimension it vertically too. Okay, all right. Okay, so as I said previously, before you use DIM continue, first use dimension linear for the first one. Then you can now go to DIM continue. DIM continue. Choose the option. Then you can click on the endpoint. So before you can use dimension linear, first use DIM. Before you can use dimension continue, first use DIM linear. So now I've been able to create both horizontal on the same straight line and vertically on the same straight line for my dimension. I hope you have learned 1 or 2 things about dimension in this session. So if you enjoyed this video, remember to like, remember to thumbs up, to click on the thumbs up button. Then remember also, most importantly, to subscribe to this video for new interesting videos. See you in the next session. Thank you.